behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina. All right, everybody, I'm here with Will Gilmore of the Kansas City Royals organization. Will, appreciate you coming on, man. I know it's early. Thanks for taking time out of your morning. Tell the listeners about yourself, if you would.
Well, Chris, thanks for having me on. I'm a minor league strength and conditioning coach for the Royals. This will be my third season with them. Grew up playing baseball, played in college and a little bit after college. Played in Europe actually, which we'll talk about how that ended up getting me a job in Europe with MLB. But kind of got hurt at the end of my career. Battled a low back injury and some arm injuries, and that really put me into the strength and conditioning realm, where I had a passion for trying to help athletes avoid those injuries, and trying to get better, get the most out of their abilities without getting hurt. That's really how I fell into the position I'm in today.
Yeah, it's kind of the reoccurring story for most guys, right? Like they played a sport, they got hurt, or they just didn't make it pro, and they want to stick around the sport. So we turn to the strength and conditioning side.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Been there. All right, so you mentioned playing in Europe. That's kind of what the nuts and bolts of this one's going to be is you work the MLB Europe program. So I guess tell us how you got involved with that, and then we'll go from there.
So originally, it came out of just being a part-time strength coach for the Royals, having no job for the 4 or 5 winter months. And my second off season, I asked my coordinator if he had any ideas of jobs, and he talked about this MLB Europe job that would sometimes come up. They would send out an email during instructs, seeing if there were any coaches interested. And sure enough, I think 3 or 4 days after we had that conversation, an email came out looking for strength coaches to go to Europe. So I hopped on it right away. And because I played baseball in Belgium for 3 or 4 months, it was kind of a slam dunk with that job application. They were really pumped that I had experience with the guys over in Europe and how things run over there. So I was hired to come on and go to France and Sweden for a total of 3 months during the winter and work with their high school national teams, really to help develop a strength and conditioning program and oversee anything they had going on at the time.
So did they have other strength coaches there and you were kind of under their guidance, or was it just you there working with the players? How did that work?
In France, they do have a full-time strength coach. So I was going in and helping to refine his program a little bit, make it a little more baseball specific, since some of the things he was doing were a little outdated from what we've come up with over here. And then in Sweden, the head coach actually runs all of their workouts. And he actually does a really good job. He's taken what the strength coaches before me have come over and implemented. He took little bits and pieces from each of them and put together a pretty solid program. So I helped him with that, and then I pretty much ran the workouts when I was over there.
So were they in season there, out of season when you were there?
It was off season.
Okay, that's what I figured.
So it's just because it was pretty cold, so most of the stuff we did was indoors.
Okay, so you had a majority of training time with them then?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was about probably 4 days a week of lifting and a couple days of conditioning as well.
Perfect. And then minimal baseball activity, no baseball activity. I know you're inside there at that time.
Sweden was minimal. They were pretty much just hitting in the cages. because it was about 15 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And then in France, they had a turf infield. So when it wasn't too cold, we were outside doing some infield or throwing, stuff like that.
So, what did a typical day look like for you, hours-wise there?
It was Monday through Friday. Usually I'd be up in France. So I stayed at their academy, which is kind of like a boarding school. So I had to be up because breakfast is done by 8 a.m. And then there was usually some kind of workout in the morning. Kids would go to class for the middle of the day, so I could go and get my workout in. And then in the afternoon was either practice or conditioning.
Okay. So it sounds like you had weekends off then.
I did.
Did you go sightseeing while you were out there?
I definitely did. And
Okay.
that was interesting because they have this app. It's kind of like Uber, but it's more of a rideshare app. It's like you're hitchhiking, essentially. People post how much they will charge for you to drive with them. So for me, I got on there. The first trip I took was to Barcelona. It was a 3-hour drive, and I paid €15 to go all the way there.
Really?
So that was pretty cool.
Okay, that's awesome. So what would you say you learned while you were there that you've taken back with you to the Royals now?
Well, the big thing was just I experienced what a lot of our Latin and international players experience, where you're kind of on your own. You don't speak the language, because I definitely didn't speak French. The food is not what you're used to. And you're kind of just on your own figuring things out. You don't really have anyone helping you out. There's a couple people that maybe speak a little bit of English. And so going through that experience really gave me a good idea of how hard it is for our international players coming over. And gave me a little more sympathy when they're going through a tough day maybe or having some kind of troubles. I can kind of go over to them, talk to them, see what's going on because I've been in their shoes.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful to be able to put yourself in their shoes. I've never been to the DR, but everybody keeps telling me when I go down there, I'll feel differently about how the Latin players are in America, and sometimes guys don't realize that like this is their first time leaving the country. They know nobody here. They don't know the language, and so they kind of latch on to other Latin guys, and it looks like they're forming cliques, so to speak.
Right.
But it's really just they don't have anybody else to communicate with. So being able to at least have some empathy and put yourself in their shoes is probably huge, and it's probably helped out a ton for you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. Cool. So what else? Is there anything else you want to talk about MLB Europe wise that might interest other listeners into trying to get into it? Are there contact people to talk to if they wanted to get into it, or is it something that just kind of pops up, infrequently?
Well, I know they're posting jobs again in a couple of weeks for this off season, but they're shifting their focus now. I say MLB is in charge of this. They have an international outreach group, and they're now shifting their focus to South America.
Okay. Interesting.
And I believe when they send out job posts, it's through the coordinators.
Okay.
And so that's how I heard about it. But in terms of Europe, the thing that I thought was interesting was the players have a different mentality about how they see the game. So in France, they'd sit around and ask me questions like, what is Lorenzo Cain's 60 time, and how fast in miles per hour does he throw from the outfield? Because whenever they go to international tournaments, it's pretty much a combine, and they're judged on metrics such as throwing 90 miles an hour from the outfield, what's your vertical, what's your 60 time. And so they would ask me all these outlandish questions that I had no idea. Like, sorry, we don't sit there with a radar gun and clock our players from the outfield every day. And
you don't do that?
Yeah.
That's interesting, man. So, does that reflect in their programming then, where they're instead of maybe training, general movement qualities or whatever, they're like, hey, I got to throw this hard from the outfield, so I need
Yeah,
to work on this.
yeah, that was a problem that we ran into with trying to program their workouts for the year. Was they have every 3 or 4 months they have another tournament where they have to be peaked, and so I was having to talk with their head coaches about saying, all right, maybe we peak the older players and get them ready for the showcase, but then don't disrupt the younger players programming because they have nothing to really prove at this point or to gain from going into that event. So keep their programming the same, let them build for their younger years instead of disrupting it every 3 or 4 months just because some scouts want to see um, how fast they can throw or what their 300-yard shuttle time is.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, what did programming look like for you then with them? Is it a lot of just basic movement, squats, hinging type of stuff, or
Yeah, exactly.
okay,
Trying to get their movement patterns down, um, which was the biggest thing when I came into France. Was they would walk into the gym, they would do 3 to 4 minutes of some light shoulder warm ups, and then the strength coach there had them hopping right into squats and RDLs, and I was like, oh no, come on,
the
we
classic
gotta
forward arm circle, backward arm circle, and hop on the
exactly,
squat rack type of thing?
yeah. So it was, and he wasn't correcting form at all. It was just put some more weight on there. Um, so trying to get them to move better was definitely a big part of it.
I gotcha. Did you have any clients other than just the baseball players? I know they were like in class during the day, or was it just strictly the baseball teams you were working with?
I worked just with the baseball teams,
Okay.
and then they had some softball coaches from the French Academy come down, and I talked with him about programming and ideas. But I didn't work with anybody else.
Okay. I gotcha. That's pretty interesting, man. I'll have to keep a lookout for job postings for the off season. I'm always looking for something to do. So,
Exactly.
all right. So, what would you say makes a strength and conditioning coach, quote unquote, successful? What do you think, makes strength coaches successful?
I think other than having a basic understanding of what you're doing in the weight room, you have to be able to relate to your players. Uh, and it's been said on many podcasts that I've listened to or things I've read, but the perfect program with zero buy-in is always going to get beat out by an average program with complete buy-in. Um, and if your players know that you care about them as people and their well-being, then they're going to be 100% invested with you. Um, but if they just feel like another piece of the puzzle, a little cookie cutter program, you're not going to connect with them. There's going to be no real productivity in that program.
Yeah, I agree more. I couldn't agree more. I've heard it from a couple other guests. They don't. They can tell when you care and when you don't, and when you have their best interest versus just checking the boxes. So
Yeah.
um, that's good, man. That's good. I agree 100%. You talked about podcasts you listen to. Where do you go for continuing education? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you reading books? Are you attending seminars? Um,
Yeah, so I'm kind of I am a little bit overzealous when it comes to listening to podcasts. That's really all I do on the bus. I don't listen to music very much. Um, I don't have a lot of time to read, so maybe once I get my work done at the end of a game, I'll hop online, read some journals or something like that. But podcasts is where I go, and just looking off the list that I have right here. Um, the top ones I listen to would be the Pacey Performance Podcast. He's got a lot of really good uh, sports scientists and guys from Europe on there. They're pretty good. Um, the Tim Ferriss Show isn't strictly about strength and conditioning, but there's a lot of really good ideas I get just from there um, about how to be more efficient or just thinking outside the box. Um, ways that can improve my coaching. Other ones, Historic Performance Podcast, another strength and conditioning one. Joe DeFranco, Industrial Strength Show. Strength Chat, which is Kabuki Strength. Those guys are pretty good. And then one that I listen to more just for entertainment, but there's also some good ideas in there. It's called Barbell Shrugged. Kind of wary to say that one just because there's a big CrossFit emphasis on there, but there's also a lot of nutrition and overall fitness ideas that come out of that that I can kind of pick and choose what I like from them.
Yeah, I've heard most of those. I haven't heard a couple, so I'll be listening to the. I think the Strength Chat is a new one for me. But you can pick something from anything, man. That's why, like you said,
Exactly.
You listen to Tim Ferriss. Our AAA guy here is reading his Tools of Titans book.
Yep.
And he's like, man, that book is solid, but it's literally like huge book. And he's like, I'll give it to you sometime. Like that thing's a little intimidating, but he's like, he said Tim Ferriss has got a ton of good stuff. So, have you ever listened to I think it's Joe Rogan's where he talks with Louis Simmons?
I haven't. I've been meaning to get on that one.
I sent that out to our group, and I was like, you guys have to listen to this. Louis is absolutely off the wall, but so smart.
Yeah,
so,
he is.
That's good, man. You need to find balance, and sometimes it's other than just strength and conditioning stuff all the time, and I try to do that with my books. Read something strength and conditioning, read something just for enjoyment or life or whatever, just
exactly
to get yourself away from it. Sometimes otherwise it might speed up on you.
Yeah, certainly.
So what advice do you have for other coaches? You said this is your third year in baseball, so still relatively young. Myself, third year as well. What advice do you have for other coaches, either looking to get into the game or trying to stay in the game and just be proactive? Either way.
Well, the first thing I would think of is living what you preach. Your players see everything you do, and they're going to mimic what you do. So if you're the first guy in the spread line and you're crushing Nutella and peanut butter sandwiches, you can't go and tell them, hey, you guys have to eat better, because they're going to see exactly what you eat every day. You have to lead by example. And then other than that, I think one of the big things that has made a difference for me, coming from one of my mentors at Cal, where I interned, was his name's Scott Salwasser. He now coaches at Texas Tech. And he said just to make sure you're doing the best job of coaching in your current role, wherever that may be. So to me, I come in and I treat every day like I'm coaching in the big leagues. Whoever walks in the door, I'm going to give them my full attention. I'm not going to get annoyed with the little questions they ask, because I'm going to pretend like it's Eric Hosmer walking in the door, and whatever this guy needs, I'm going to give him to make him feel better that day. Yeah, I think if you do that, then you're going about it the right way.
I've received similar advice where it's just picture yourself where you want to be and treat today like you're there. So I'm on board with that completely, man. That's good stuff. Funny story about the food. So we stop at a rest stop, and the only place they have is McDonald's. Like even the convenience store is closed. So like, of course you have to eat McDonald's. And then, like, a couple days later, it's my birthday, and the team gets me a $50 McDonald's gift card. And I don't eat at McDonald's, very, very rarely, like, in that situation. And they're like, oh, no, we know you're crushing McDonald's. I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from, but like you said, they see everything, apparently. So it's good advice, man. It's good advice. I know it's early, and I know you guys got in kind of late. If you're up for it, I'd like to do a lightning round. Let's do it. All right, cool. Let's do it. First question: who has had the biggest influence on you in the strength and conditioning field?
Marcus Elliott. He's the doctor that runs P3 out in Santa Barbara. Um, they're pretty groundbreaking with a lot of the stuff that they do. I actually trained there when I was a sophomore in college, and this was the first time that I got experience to more sport-specific training. Everything there is done in a complex, so you do your strength movement with a plyo, then maybe because of baseball, it was some kind of rotational med ball work, and it was a lot of protagonist, antagonist work. And that was the first time that really opened my eyes to what science can do in a training program. And ever since then, I just started reading and getting more and more into strength and conditioning. So I'd say that guy's by far the biggest influence on me.
I don't think I'll ever forget the first time I was introduced to something other than just a bodybuilding chest,
Exactly.
buys, shoulders split. So that's good. That's good. Second, if you had only one piece of equipment to train with, what would it be?
Only one piece of equipment. I would say, I'd have to go barbell. I think you can do everything with it. If you want to do your squats, your deadlifts, RDLs, you can do overhead press, bent over rows. I think with that, I could find a lot of stuff, even including your soft tissue work. You know, crush your quads with the bar. It's not going to be pleasant, but you can get it done.
Love it. If I can deadlift it and then crush it afterwards, it's all good.
Exactly.
Third, biggest accomplishment professionally and or personally?
Ooh, biggest accomplishment. I would say my first year with the Royals, I got pretty lucky and I won a World Series ring. So getting that my first year in baseball, I don't know, it was kind of funny, but I said, like, is this it? I mean, is that all it takes? That was pretty easy. So I think that's the coolest thing that I have at home in my trophy case right now, by far.
Yeah, I'm pretty jealous of you on that one. We'll just go to the next question. Any career other than strength and conditioning, what would you choose?
That's also a good one, because for 3 or 4 years after college, I had no idea. Um, I I was a bartender for a year and a half. That was awful. Um, I had a couple other odd jobs, office jobs that just didn't work out. I was coaching high school and junior college baseball. But I think I would have to say um, a radio broadcaster, because I thought in college maybe that was something I would be interested in.
It's interesting, radio broadcast. I haven't heard anything even close to that. Interesting. All right, man. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. If the listeners want to get to know you more or more information from you, where can we get in contact with you?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. I believe the name is Will Gilmore _KC, like Kansas City. Anybody can email me. My email is will.gilmore@royals.com. And then I'm also on Twitter. Not too active on there. I usually just retweet what other smarter people put out there. I believe the handle is LA Power Performance, PERF for short. Other than that, I think that those are the best ways to get in contact with me.
Perfect. Thanks, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your morning. I had a good time. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff on here, and we'll be in touch soon.
Definitely. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
You got it.
All right, everybody, that concludes our episode with Will. I hope you enjoyed it. Will provided a lot of good information about the MLB International Development Program and about strength and conditioning in general. 3 things that I took from Will. First, lead by example. He talks about how the athletes see everything that you do and they'll follow your lead. Second, do your best wherever you are. Whether you're in the big leagues, the minor leagues, or anywhere in between, Do your best and give your athletes the attention that they deserve. And third, go outside of strength and conditioning for knowledge. He talked about listening to Tim Ferriss and his podcast and still being able to take away valuable points from him. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the episode with Will, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.